Hey guys, welcome to Reddit Brew. Today, we're back at it again with the r/JUSTNOMIL malicious Magda saga. So if you missed part 1, I suggest you watch that first. I will link it now, as well as in the pinned comment below. But without further ado, grab your holy water and let's jump into part 2 and see what else the Demon Mill has been up to. Magda threw a lawn tantrum. Today, I was taking a pregnancy-induced coma nap in the living room when I woke up to my nephew, Lewis, he's our landscaper, arguing with someone in the front yard. I peek out of the front window and he's arguing with two men in front of a truck from a very expensive furniture store near my nutbag a-hole mill, Magda's house. They stop arguing when I open the front door. Lewis instantly apologizes for waking me up from my nap. He explains that this store is trying to deliver a bunch of furniture, a new piano, and it's all paid for. When he saw Magda's name on the receipt, he knew I wouldn't want it. The delivery guys just couldn't understand how I could refuse a complete nursery set made of teak and a brand new Yamaha piano. I ended up calling the store, telling the manager that if they didn't leave, I was going to call the cops. Refund Magda's money or don't. I don't give a shit. This furniture was not coming off the truck and into my house. So delivery guys and Magda's furniture leave, and Lewis goes back to working on the flower beds. I knew it wasn't over. When I hung up with the manager of the store, I knew Magda was going to be at my house in 55 minutes. 25 minutes to get the phone call and summon her flying monkeys. 30 minutes to drive to my house. Right on schedule, Magda, Sil 2, and her daughter-in-law come roaring up our street in Magda's car. Magda's in the front seat with Sil's Dill driving. Her mascara is streaked down her face, enraging me further. Her streaked makeup was for show. Her eyes weren't puffy, and her favorite mascara is waterproof. Before she could bang on my door, I threw it open and told her to leave. She stops in the middle of the walk and just chastises me for refusing to be a part of the family. Why did I insist on having to do things different and have such blatant disregard for last name family traditions? She just wants to love me, and she loves her grandson. With him being born in the US, I'll have an easier path to citizenship. She's sorry for threatening to get me deported. She wants to resolve our conflicts before the baby is born. And then, bam! My nephew hits her with the garden hose. He makes sure to absolutely soak her. He's yelling at her to leave before he calls the cops. He follows her to the car, hose on full blast. Quite a bit of water gets into her stupid fancy car before she can get in and close the door. They take off quickly. Before they're even to the freeway, Magda calls me using Dill's cell phone. She's screaming into the phone, telling me that she loves me and that I need to get over it. My husband and I have been married long enough for me to know that she's head of the family. I need to know my place. I told her that she will never meet her grandson. She's not allowed to come to the hospital. She isn't even invited to his christening, and we will never come to holidays in her home. My husband is free to have whatever relationship he wants, but now the two older kids, me, and this still gestating fetus don't have a relationship. The youngest can decide, but trying to buy his affection with a new piano is offensive. I will not be encouraging him to spend time with her. I just hung up. My husband and the kids have said nothing about her when they got home. I don't know what's going to happen now. The Magda elephant is in the room, and even saying her name out loud enrages me. Magda visits her adult grandchildren. Last time on My Mill is a Psycho A-hole, she tried to buy my youngest son a new piano and my still gestating fetus a suite of unnecessarily expensive nursery furniture. I refused delivery. She came over to yell. My nephew turned the garden hose on her when she wouldn't leave. He got a lot of water inside of her car, but she left. I suspected my Phil didn't know that she just dropped that kind of money, which he did not, and this brings us to yesterday. My brother-in-law too, husband and father-in-law to the flying monkeys Magda brought with her to yell at me, leaves a panicked text messages for my husband to call him ASAP. My husband is still pissed off that Bill's wife and daughter-in-law joined Magda to try to bully me into submitting to her will. He doesn't return the text or call. After getting a flurry of panicked texts from all of his brothers and a cousin, my husband finally calls Phil. American Express called Phil. The furniture store refused to refund Magda after I refused delivery. She tried to get it charged back, claiming fraud. The furniture store called the house number instead of Magda's cell phone. Phil picks up the phone, and the owner told Phil that he can himself, and that they're banned from the store because of Magda's behavior. Blowout fight between them ensues. Magda leaves in a dramatic fashion. She doesn't come or call Friday night. By Saturday afternoon, he logged in to the mobile bank to see that Magda made a sizable cash withdrawal at a branch near an out-of-the-way airport. She took a plane somewhere, but Phil can't tell where, and United put him on hold for 45 minutes before he gave up. My husband recounts this to me while I'm playing video games with my youngest son, and I'm pretty much ignoring it, because this is just more escalation of her bullshit. It wasn't until he said, or let it slip, that mom redesigned her medication regimen. Awesome! An improperly medicated psycho is running around without major financial constraints. Awesome! Yesterday morning, brother-in-law 3's daughter, Tammy, Magda's granddaughter, calls her parents upset because Magda showed up at her door disheveled and wearing sweatpants, crying hysterically about needing to reunite her family. Magda lives in Southern California. Tammy lives in Virginia, and not close to a major airport. Magda is in Tammy's house, terrifying her great-grandchildren that she's never met before by carrying on. Honestly, I can't believe Tammy let her in, considering they have been no contact for at least 5 years. Tammy agrees to let Magda stay there until Phil gets there. He'll book the next flight out. Magda flips out when she hears this plan and leaves. Tammy tells Phil that she doesn't give enough of a fuck to chase after her. Magda then does the same to Bill 2's daughter, Bambi, her other granddaughter, in New Jersey. Granddaughter comes home from work to Magda crying again hysterically about wanting to reunite the family. The building manager let her in the apartment. Bambi and Magda have been estranged for a long time as well. At least Bambi was expecting something though, because Tammy texted all of her cousins warning them. She kept it cool and gave Magda a load of Xanax. She was passed out long enough to be collected by Phil. So this isn't the first time Magda's gone off her meds, had a raging meltdown at someone she didn't like in the first place, and then goes on a spending spree. This is the third time she's done it. The first 2 times we were living in Florida, so the family decided to just not tell my husband. Yes, this is total no contact time for my family's safety. I told my husband that Phil also needs to be cut off. He's enabled this behavior for far too long. I'm also thinking about changing hospitals to have the baby. I'm paranoid that my husband's family isn't going to properly deal with Magda, especially now that she's not medicated properly. I fear they'll just bring her back to Southern California and act like nothing ever happened. I'm honestly so mad at her mental health crisis. I'd feel less guilty if she was just her regular a-hole self. Magda's intervention. After Magda's epic freakout and impromptu visit to the East Coast to harass and stalk her no-contact granddaughters, she has returned to Southern California. All total, she visited 3 of her 5 granddaughters, Tammy, Bambi, and Renee. All have been no contact with her for at least 5 years. When Phil collected Magda from Bambi's, she escaped the hotel, drove from South New Jersey to upstate New York to Renee's house. Renee especially hates Magda because Magda was constantly harassing her to break up with her Jewish boyfriend, now husband. She converted, they got married, she finished college, and moved upstate. Their wedding was the best family event with my husband's family that I'd ever gone to because his parents weren't there. This is where I got hip to Raisin Kugel. Google this stuff and get into it. Magda shows up at Renee's house, pounding on the door, screaming about family unity. Renee's mother-in-law calls the cops and Magda gets arrested. Phil finally catches up with her and they take the next flight back to LA from Buffalo. Bill 1 puts together an intervention at his house. His mill Bill is the famous Linda, who I've mentioned before, and who witnessed Mill's racist freakout at the Super Bowl party. So Bill is desperate to get his mom reined in. My husband refused to go to the intervention. His brothers begged him, and he completely refused. He says Magda is dead to him, and dead people can't have interventions. I am actually proud at him for that. They had the meeting this morning. Bambi is a mastermind. She had Phil, my husband's brothers, golden child grandson, and his wife say supportive, loving things about how they want her to get help for her mental issues and prescription addiction. When it was the girls' turn to talk, each of them gave Magda a cease and desist letter and said a variation of, "I'll come to your funeral to make sure you're dead." Phil was pissed because he paid for airfare, rental cars, and hotels for everyone. An argument ensued about how ungrateful everyone is. Phil scolded his sons for raising such bitches for daughters. Magda had another tantrum screaming about how nobody loves her, and she's made so many sacrifices for her family. She should just unalive herself. Blah, blah, blah. Ultimately, Magda agreed to do the 90-day rehab program. The website makes it look way more like a spa than a rehab. I'm sure she'll love the daily individual and group therapy sessions, Reiki massages, and horseback riding on the beach. On the plus side, my baby shower is tomorrow, and my husband's nieces are now in town, so they get to come. Our lawyer friend sent a sternly worded letter with Magda's photo to the hospital that I'm having the baby at. My OB got me in touch with the hospital's risk management department. I'm registered privately with a flag on my chart to only admit my husband and my older brother's wife, who is like my second mom. My stepkids are staying with my parents while I'm at the hospital. I feel a lot better now that I know Magda is being fawned over in rehab. Magda announced the birth of my son on Facebook. Thankfully, I'm on a baby high still, so I'm not upset as I could be. I gave birth to my beautiful baby boy yesterday, just after midnight. I had an easy, short labor with a perfectly healthy baby. I was in the hospital for about 12 hours. This was a nice, easy end to an emotionally difficult pregnancy. I'm glad, after everything my nutso Mill put me through, at least birthing the goddamn baby was a breeze. My Bill's Mill, Linda, just called me asking why Magda announced the birth of my baby on Facebook with photos and sent me screenshots. My youngest son texted those pictures to her along with the vitals. Magda wrote a pitiful paragraph about how she's sad that her grandson's birth is tainted by the animosity from me. It's like it never ends. I was foolish to think she would actually stay in rehab through the birth of her baby. I'm so thankful for my sister-in-law being here, so at least I know Magda won't get into my house. But man, I don't know what to do with youngest son. I can't even look at him right now. I know it's not his fault though. He's only 12. And Magda is the master manipulator and knows exactly how to get under the kid's skin. But on the other hand, he was told directly by me and his father that he is not to communicate with her. We will do our best to use this as a learning lesson. However, even though youngest son has broken no contact, I'm happy to report that since my husband stated that Magda was dead to him, he has stuck to it. Oh man, you have no idea how happy this set of stories made me. It's starting off with nephew Lewis blasting Mill with a garden hose was a thing of beauty, wasn't it? All hail Lewis, king of the garden hose. Then, learning that the granddaughters have titanium spines, being beautifully petty by giving Magda cease and desist letters. Amazing. Then, to end it off with a tiny glimmer of hope for OP's husband, with him sticking to no contact with his mother. So good. Learning that Magda left rehab already though, I'm worried. Phil and the other enabling flying monkeys need to start holding this woman accountable. She is a loose cannon, and she needs some proper help. Great googly moogly. But anyway, that is all for me from part 2 today. Yes, there is more, and I'll be back at it again next time with part 3 of Malicious Magda. Please leave a like and subscribe if you're enjoying this saga so far. I truly appreciate when you do. Bye!